Hey everybody, welcome to Work in Progress, the weekly show about work, life, and everything in between from Reno Collective Co-working. I'm Colin Loretz, and as always, I'm joined by Rachel Kingham.
Hello.
And today we have a special guest, Kelly Aguilera from the studio.
Thank
Hello.
you for joining us, Kelly.
Of course. My pleasure.
So, go ahead
would
and
you like me to introduce
introduce
myself,
yourself to the world.
My name is Kelly Aguilera. I teach at the studio Reno, and I've been teaching yoga for around 9 years now. I lead teacher training, a 200-hour teacher training, and various workshops as well. And do a lot of things behind the scenes here at the studio also. And it's my pleasure to join you this evening.
Awesome. Yeah, Kelly's introduced me to yin yoga, which is definitely my favorite form of yoga.
I do consider myself the unofficial yoga teacher of the Reno Collective.
You are.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you, when we were gathering, you may have seen her. She's done some cool workshops in the past to help people, and we figured today would be a good chance to talk a little bit about what things we can do when we're working from home. Most of us that are working from home and even just used to work from the collective, are usually bound to a desk, and so there's a lot of things that come up from when you do that. And I think especially a lot of people, it's already been almost a year, and a lot of people didn't necessarily have like the most perfect ergonomic setup, and even if you do, it's not a replacement for moving, and I think that's what we'll be talking about today. So
Right.
that being said, I guess focusing on, what are some of the things, I guess, that we can all kind of throw out there that are issues with working from home, specifically around physical and, strain and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, a whole lot of sitting. I know Kelly's got a child too, but I've got two kids, and so there's ups and downs with them. But once they're gone, if I'm at home working, then it's just sitting, staring at a computer and tilting my neck constantly down. And I believe, Kelly, you called it tech neck was one of the latest trends as far as fillers in the neck to avoid the wrinkle that comes from staring at your computer. Oh,
it's getting us all around. But it's I've noticed it in a lot of my students these days. They're asking for things for the neck, for the shoulders, which is, they always ask for things for the shoulders, but asking for things for their neck is a new concern. And I think that's something, as long as we're doing this work from home, that it's good to have something in your basket of tools that you can bring out once or twice a day to help you to prevent that tech neck.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of industries that actually focus a lot on like repetitive stress injuries and things like that. And I think people who tend to work on a computer, or people who found themselves just being on it more, I think one of the things that we used to promote this show was that since the pandemic, work days have gotten longer and the number of meetings have gone up. So you are looking at a screen just more in general, and that does cause, whether it's the little screen or the big screen, and not having the right movements, no matter what it is, even if you're moving around a lot just at one place, it's not a replacement for going out for a walk or giving your eyes a break, right? Because there'll be some days where I've stared at a light for way too long and can't do it anymore.
Well, and it's interesting too, like you said, with meetings, with Zoom meetings and things like that, because you're staring at the hole that is the camera, instead of being in a group where you might turn from side to side and that doesn't seem like a big deal. But after you've sat there staring for an hour into that camera, I get stiff just doing that because I haven't moved. I don't want to get out of camera. I don't want to, I don't want someone to think I'm distracted.
Yeah.
Whereas in a meeting with real people, you are doing some natural movement anyway.
Yeah. And if you're then going to make food at home and you had coffee at home, like you basically didn't move that far since you got up in the morning. And I think that's a big thing
you
for
go
me.
Upstairs, downstairs,
exactly.
down the hall.
Yeah. And then you look at your step count for the day and it's like less than 1,000, and that's not good. So for me, it ends up being that if I don't intentionally plan to do something outside of the house, then I'll look down at, you know, my Fitbit type thing and realize that like it's just not going to happen today. If I'm trying to hit a goal, I have to get out and go do something. And you know, I used to do like the yin class once a week. I haven't been doing that. That's something I need to get back to. But things that we can do when we're at our desk and or just around the house with things that we have, I think are just good to think about, like either finishing the day or starting the day, just taking a break. We've had some of our members say things like I know Mike Henderson, he tries to do work cycles and then do push-ups in between each of them. And, you know, anything that gets him on a schedule that just adds some sort of movement to his day. So, so yeah, I think with that, we can let Kelly show us some of the things that she's got for us.
Okay, so the first stretch that I'd like to introduce is very manageable, and I think that it will serve a lot of people who work from home. And also, I've been doing it on myself now for a couple weeks, and I've noticed a large difference. So what you will do is you place your right hand or one of your hands just underneath your collarbone and slightly press down. Shift your gaze towards the same side as your hand, and then begin to look up. Bring your head back like it's in a headrest and hold for about 15 seconds. And I already felt my jaw pop here. It's like already releasing tension here. And then you can bring it down. And again, head back in the headrest, hand underneath the collarbone on the other side. Shift gaze towards the opposite side, and then shift gaze up.
Wow, yeah.
So I've been doing
jaw popping.
You feel that? Yeah. I feel so much space open up in my neck after I do this. And yeah, a bit jaw popping, ears popping. It's like so just strange, and we can come back. So also something important to remember as we're sitting in our desk, I think we have this tendency to do this. Yeah. We want to have that head back in the headrest, like where it's the car seat headrest, like a slight tuck of the chin. So a nice way to even remember that is to place one hand on the forehead and our other hand just behind and sort of press in here. And that can be a little release for the occipital bones on the skull as well. So that's a nice thing to do if you have a headache as well. Yeah. So those are two simple things you can do.
Speaking of children, yes.
What's that about children?
I said the headache. Yeah. Speaking of children, yes.
Oh,
I'll start using that.
Yeah, and staring at a screen all day, you get that eye strain, and you know I forget what it is, your nerves or something attached just right back here. So that's where a lot of our headaches are coming from. So a nice way to stretch out those areas. If you have a sock at home and you have 2 tennis balls, there's tennis balls in here. You can place them here on the back of the neck, and I would lay down. Or if you have, you know, a high back chair, you can place them underneath and just sort of give yourself a little massage, rolling the balls from the center of the skull towards the ears and then back again. And that can open up a lot of space and release some tension in the back of the neck.
Interesting.
And I'd show you that, but
yeah.
if you want to.
How far back do you, so like the difference between like sort of cricking your neck and we don't want to. Yeah, so we don't want to. There's a saying in yoga: we don't want to make orange juice. We're not crunching the cervical spine backwards. It's just a lengthening of the back of the neck is what we want. So a lifting of the skull back, a slight tuck of the chin. Not that we're going to give ourselves a double chin or cut off air. There's just a lengthening of the back of the neck. And then maybe even looking side to side, and you might feel that in those muscles along the neck as well. I know.
Yeah.
It seems so simple.
No,
Just
that's a
having your
big
head
one
back.
for me. From all the remodeling that we've been doing, I found that like I can almost barely turn my head anymore, and so that's been the thing I've been focused on, is even just laying down. And I think the biggest thing I've learned from doing yin is that like something that doesn't feel like it's doing anything, if you hold it for a long enough time, you really do feel that release, and as long as you're doing the right movements and things like that. So I'm a fan of like lacrosse balls. For sure, for something similar to what you're just showing with the tennis balls.
Yeah. And then I'll just keep going here before I forget.
Yeah.
Because we're like this a lot, or we're like this a lot, or if we're driving, we're like this. Sorry, the heat just turned on in this room, and I'm going to pause to turn it off real quick. We're shortening through our pecs, which is causing this folding or this kind of hunching forward, which means that it's shortening the pecs, it's tugging here, and so we want to open the pecs. So something that we can do is just simply clasp the hands behind us. Again, nice long spine, and you can stand up too, or if you have a standing desk, you can stand up. And then you can start to nod the head, yes. And maybe this is where you have a bit more intentional movement or exaggerated movement. And that's a nice release of the pecs in the front. If you have yoga blocks available, lying down on the floor and placing the yoga blocks underneath your forearms. I know Colin likes this one when he came to the yin class. You lie down on your belly, flat, blocks underneath your forearms, and then it gets a nice big opening through the chest. People always ask for that one.
Yeah.
What are some
and you only hold it
go for
like 3 minutes, 1 to 3 minutes. But it's a nice release. People always ask for that.
What are some alternatives to the yoga blocks? Like, I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, so pillows.
Okay.
A rolled up blanket. I know that yoga blocks are hard to come by, or they were at the beginning of the pandemic. Right. You can roll up some blankets, use a pillow, stack some books.
It's a little different, but the one with your arm against the wall would also do that, right?
Yeah, I'm hesitant to talk about that one because it can pinch off a nerve. Okay. So I don't want people to do it and then they're like, oh, this doesn't feel good.
All right.
Now, when you do that one, are you doing like 90 degrees or are your arms like down?
Yeah, so you could do 90 degrees like this. Like we call this a cactus.
Okay.
I know some people like to do it like a Y too, but most people like to do a cactus, and I have a yoga block here. So yoga blocks generally have 1, 2, or 3 settings. So you can choose what height you put underneath your forearm for that opening.
Nice.
And but rolling up blankets is a really nice option that you can do as well.
Huh. Okay.
So, if you're working from home, take some time. My husband every night, he comes downstairs, stops looking at one of his 4 screens and does stretches. He stretches it out because he starts to feel it in his body. And, his hobby, as many people's are, is playing video games. Mm-hmm. So he's on his computer all day and then he goes and plays some game online afterwards. So he's staring at his screen all day long. So he takes the time to stretch. He likes to do this one. Sometimes you can hear him snoring lightly. So it's nice and relaxing.
That's good. That means working.
Yeah. So we've done some things for the neck. We've done some things for the front body. And then another thing for the shoulders back, for the back shoulders, for the trapezius and things like that is you just sit in your chair and then same thing here, the 90-degree bend, you place one arm underneath the other arm. Mm-hmm. You can twist your arms together, lifting up your elbows, and then dropping your chin towards your chest. And that gives a nice stretch. Yeah.
I'm like, definitely not as flexible as you, that's for sure.
So if that doesn't work, you can give yourself a hug. You can press the backs of the hands into each other, either way. And just big inhale into that space in between the scapula and in between the shoulder blade to help you.
Nice.
Get a nice opening in the backside of the body. Or you can take these tennis balls I've been doing this at home too, placing it right between the shoulder blades, even in your chair. Give yourself a hug and you can roll side to side. Give yourself a little massage that way.
Nice.
A little myofascial release. You don't ever want to press too hard where it hurts. You want it to feel good. The goal is never to hurt yourself. So always find that spot. We call it the Goldilocks position, where it feels just right. It's not too hard, it's not too soft, it's just right. And you wanna stay there. And then if you're holding it for couple minutes, follow that sensation. It might shift and change and sort of ride what your body is telling you to do.
Interesting. Yeah, my husband got some sort of, I think they're called like miracle balls or something like this, but it's somebody who's essentially taken this idea and created a product out of it. So it's just these two like small medicine ball type things, but they're not weighted. And it's just, you lay down and you put them under your back and then you lay there for 3 minutes. And then you put them under your hips and you lay there for 3 minutes. It's the same principle.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just want to make sure the balls aren't too hard. So you want the balls to have some give so that they're not bruising you or causing a lot of discomfort. They do come in like different, that's why tennis balls are nice, because they do have like a bit of give.
Yeah.
I'll use my dog's ball for my feet, because if we have time we could talk about that, but sometimes our feet can start to hurt from standing at our desk too much, and then a ball with some give can be nice to roll along the bottom of your foot.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I think
I don't know if you've ever tried to roll a hard ball underneath. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead and we can jump into the standing desks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, our feet are very sensitive, like when you get a rock in your shoe or whatever, you want a softer surface to roll.
Nice.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people have understood in the last couple of years the importance of, mixing up your day by sitting at the desk, but then also standing at the desk. But like you were saying, there's issues with standing at your desk too for too long. And I'd love, if you can talk about some of those, that'd be great.
Sure. So I know you guys already talked about it, but the healthiest thing that we can do for our body, point blank, is walk. Because if we're seated, we're shortening our hip flexors right here. These muscles right here get shortened. It tugs on our pelvis, and this is what leads to back pain. Even if we're standing though, we might not be having, correct posture and causing ourselves some back pain as well. So it's important to focus on our hip flexors if we are going to be stretching it out. A simple thing you can do if you're standing is, I'm trying to fit everything on the screen here, but you could do just like a simple little lunge here, bringing one leg back, other leg forward, keep the knee over the front ankle and get a nice stretch here. That's a nice standing posture that you can do to help open up the the hip flexors. And then, or like a stretch here where you're grabbing for your feet or your ankle, getting a stretch here through the quads and the hip flexor. I know that reaching for the foot can be hard for some people. So if you have a strap or a blanket, you can use that to wrap around your foot.
Yeah.
Or you can lie on your side and do the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of furniture companies are trying to sell everybody who's working from home, gimmicks, right? The standing desk ads are coming out, the special balance boards to stand on, and there was an article that came out from a woman who studied sitting, and her big thing was that, like, in her house she has And even at her dining table, like every chair is a different chair, because the whole point is to have different positions, putting the body into different positions frequently instead of getting so used. Because some people sit in the same office chair for like multiple years, and it's kind of like sleeping in a mattress without replacing it, is that your body habituates to that. But even the standing desk, like I have one, and I usually stand when I'm having a hard time like focusing. Like if I know I need to focus, I'm going to stand because I'm not going to get too comfortable. But you were mentioning before we started, like even standing desks can cause like plantar fasciitis and things like that if you don't do it properly. So it's again, like standing only can hurt you if you're not doing it right. So like I have an anti-fatigue mat, or if you're going to be wearing shoes or something like that, so that you have some sort of cushion and that sort of thing. And you know, similarly, you're not going to hopefully wear shoes that are totally burned out either. You want to be wearing, you know, whatever you would normally be wearing. And you know, my Converse are probably not the best option for that, but it's better than.
I think they're like the worst.
Yeah.
That you can wear. Yeah.
The original basketball shoes.
Ouch.
Yeah.
I read an article about how plantar fasciitis is on the rise because so many people are working from home, and so they're not wearing shoes, or they are at standing desks and they're not wearing shoes. So they're putting a lot of weight on their feet. So a really great way to combat that. And Nico, my husband, has this at home, but you can place the ball underneath your foot and just roll forward and back along the arch of the foot.
Oh yeah, as a runner, it's like the best feeling ever.
Yeah, and sometimes you can stop and do a little sinking, but again, you don't want to make it feel like you're bruising yourself. You just want it to feel like a little massage. And it can be intense, especially if that plantar fascia is very tight. But I would highly recommend that we're as strong as our foundation. Our feet are our foundation. And so this is a nice place to start. And it's very doable to place the ball underneath your foot, whether you're standing or sitting, and just roll it out for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I like is that these recommendations don't require you to spend a lot of money. I probably see more ads for this than the normal person, but I know that programmers, designers, people who have these desk jobs, like, we're getting targeted at these like balance boards and these ergonomic chairs that have you sit in special ways. And, you know, I still think that, you know, get your work done and get away from the screen is probably the best option. Like go on a walk, you know, it's good for your brain in other ways as well. And it's just good to get out of the little room we have.
Fresh air.
We have enough isolation for sure. Yeah, fresh air. I would say, you know, not to replace fresh air, but like, there was something else that's, if you're feeling really fatigued, is that I would look into an air quality monitor or an air purifier for your office as well at home. There was a lot of people who, you know, they shut the door to be on the Zoom call. There's no airflow in their room, and you will feel bad. You will feel worse for that. So, you know, because you're not moving around and commuting to the office and then going to lunch and moving around throughout the day, you are like literally asphyxiating your brain a little bit. So yeah, go for it.
Other room. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, especially all of the if you're in a building or an office setup, you've usually got a larger ventilation system than at home, and so you know.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to talk about that, but I have my little one down here running. It just turned on and it reminded me, because there was someone who, it was a really famous developer who's been tweeting about it nonstop, because he's like, I didn't even realize that my house has been trying to kill me this whole time since he's been working from home. So it's important.
Yeah, all those little things. So Kelly, I'm curious, because you keep talking about, like, you know, the Goldilocks principle, but the idea
Goldilocks
of
position.
Okay. So not too hard, not too soft, but just right. So you know how like with massage and things like that, it's okay, what kind, you know, how deep do you want the massage? And if you're tough, you can handle the deeper massage. So what is are you doing, is it more of the muscle on the top layers? Is that what what we'd be doing with that kind of Goldilocks side of it?
So with this is all myofascial release. So it does affect the muscles, but all the muscles are wrapped in a connective tissue, and we can think about it like a super highway. So my skull and my feet are connected through this myofascial superhighway. And if I place the ball somewhere where it feels nice and sensational, you might not just feel release here, but I might feel a release in my right knee as well. And it helps to unravel it. When you place pressure on the fascia, it helps to keep it hydrated. It helps to keep it lubricated so that we start to move a little better. So I would just, I forgot what you asked because I went off on a tangent.
Too much pressure, like too much pressure.
Yeah.
Less is probably more.
So your body will tell you though, like where the, if you're like, ow, 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 you know, like, or kind of like, if you're not sinking into it, but you're pulling away from it, then that's too much. You want to be in the spot where you can just sink into it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's funny because I think I've spent when, like going up to the corner of a wall and then leaning back to get the spots under my shoulder blades, versus leaning back gently against like a tennis ball that'll do some give, but like digging the corner and thinking, all right, I'll just smash it out. I don't know, but okay.
Yeah, you got to be really careful about that because you could, it might feel really good, but you might be bruising yourself. You might be injuring yourself in a different way if it's right where your shoulder blades or ribs are. So you just want to find, but yeah, it does affect the muscle, but it's also the fascia as well, which is what you really want to work with, which is what the target of yin yoga is, which is the class that Colin enjoys. It's not the muscles, it's the fascia.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it makes a lot of sense. It's, you're talking about the headache, just those little movements, which I guess is what we're doing, is we're just like slowly throughout the day, just tilting further and further or punching a little more.
You brought up the idea of like, the tough guys, quote unquote, being able to handle more massage. It's like, it's kind of like people who spend too much time in the gym focusing on the same muscles and then they can't touch the middle of their back because they've overdeveloped some things and they have no mobility, no flexibility. And they probably, honestly, they probably look at yin and like, think that is below them, but I guarantee they can't get into most of those positions because they lack the flexibility and then they can't, move around life as easily as they should be able to because they just, one bound muscle.
Yeah,
Men need to be particularly careful because if they don't move it, they lose it in terms of mobility of their pelvis and their low spine. Over time and with age, where our sacrum and our spine connect in men, they can fuse together. And so if you've seen those men who kind of walk with a hunch and that means that they lost the mobility of their pelvis, and it might be because they've sat too much or just they haven't worked it enough. And so it's important to work these areas. That's why walking is important. That's why these movements are important, so that we are keeping the connective tissue healthy so that we can continue to move into our old age.
Yes.
Women don't particularly have that issue because of childbearing and things like that, but men are more prone to it.
That is interesting. I didn't realize
Take
that.
Note, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Look,
one thing hard for you.
Right. Our low backs hurt in a different way after you've given birth, but like other things. But like,
But
definitely
lower back
you want
pain,
to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, lower back pain seems to be one that, like, as we all get older, it's the one that people start to, look for all the fancy gizmos and gadgets to figure out how to fix it. And
walking is your best bet.
Yeah.
As you walk, your muscles tug on your pelvis and keep your pelvis moving, and the muscles of the low back get to move and get exercise, and that keeps it nice and healthy. But for those times when it does flare up, the tennis balls can be nice again.
Yeah.
And the low back to have some pressure there.
Okay.
So
there's a really nice stretch that some of my students really enjoy. That I'll just show real quick here on the floor. You bring one leg out and fold the other leg in, and then fold over. Good long leg, and then you get a nice hamstring stretch on this leg, but you're also getting a nice stretch in the low back on the other side. And my students pretty much get that pose every week because
Feels so good.
it gets all the good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered most of the body, and I know there's always more that we can always be doing, but I think just taking a few minutes to do those stretches at the end of every day can really pay off. And
when we can meet in person again, I'd love to come to the collective and do a little
absolutely
next seminar.
That would be really fun. Yeah. I love that technique.
Yeah. Well, that room that we've
then,
taught in the past, we hope to finally be able to make it a little bit more suitable for a little collective studio. So it'll be a good return to the space.
Absolutely.
And Reno Collective members always get a deal at the studio as well for those who want to come and try out.
Perfect. Yeah, well, everybody knows.
Love it.
I mean, now we're in the after times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely.
The after times. Yep.
Yeah, you guys have 2 spaces now.
We do have 2 spaces.
On
We expanded.
One down on Virginia.
Nice.
So if you're interested
in
in trying out the studio, definitely get in touch with Rachel or I. And I think that's our time for today. So thanks so much, Kelly.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. This is awesome.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
And
be well.
Where can people find us online, Rachel?
Oh, find us. All right. Well, we are at renocollective.com. And actually, Kelly, right as you grab a sip, it's Studio Reno.
Yeah, the studioreno.com.
Perfect.
And the Studio Reno on Instagram. And I'm Stellar Kelly on Instagram if anyone wants to reach out personally to me.
Yeah, so we'll share those links in the blog post that will surely come after this.
Yes,
and,
yes.
I know we didn't have too many people tuning in live tonight, but this will probably be one of the more watched videos once we release it for sure, because I know people are aching out there, and we'll gather again for the show next week.
We will. Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. See you next week.
Good night.
Night.